initiated by humiliation, childhood testing, mocking, and the training of ritual submission. Trigger warning. This video series covers disturbing and very serious topics. Full legal disclaimer in the video description below. Welcome back. I'm Adeline Atlas, 11 times published author, and this is the Occult Families series, where we expose the hidden spiritual architecture of ritual bloodlines and the tactics used to program, fracture, and control chosen children from birth. In this video, we're going to reveal one of the most overlooked forms of initiation in these systems: humiliation. It may not look like a ritual. It may even be disguised as teasing, punishment, or cultural normalcy. But within occult families, humiliation is not just cruelty, it is training. Humiliation serves as one of the earliest initiatory tools used on children born into families of spiritual control. Unlike overt violence, which is often reserved for ritual events or isolated moments, humiliation is constant, casual, and public. It is the soft weapon, the invisible needle, the daily ceremony that teaches the child one core lesson: you are not safe being yourself. Let's break it down. Every occult system depends on submission, and submission must be taught, not by breaking the body, but by breaking the spirit. That's where humiliation comes in. Children are mocked for their curiosity, teased for their emotions, shamed for their bodies, ridiculed when they speak truth. This isn't just dysfunction, it is a grooming strategy. Because the moment a child learns that their inner world is unsafe to express, they begin to split from it. And once they're split from their authenticity, they become programmable. One of the most common tactics is public humiliation disguised as parenting. A child may be forced to wear embarrassing clothing, reenact their mistakes, or be singled out in front of others. These moments may seem like discipline, but in ritual families, they are often watched, observed, recorded energetically. Humiliation becomes a test, a way for the system to gauge how much spirit is left in the child. Does she cry? Resist? Go silent? Each reaction is studied. Because in occult families, children are not just raised, they are measured. These tests often escalate as the child grows. What begins as mocking becomes exposure. Parents may share private details with strangers, make jokes about the child's body, or orchestrate situations that result in embarrassment. Sometimes, the entire family is in on it, laughing, watching, reinforcing. The goal is not just to create shame, it's to make the child complicit, to force them into a performance of their own degradation. If the child smiles along, laughs it off, or pretends not to care, the family considers it a successful ritual. These moments are not random. They are spiritual rehearsals. Each humiliation is a submission drill. The child learns to override their instincts, suppress their emotions, and dissociate from their pain. They begin to believe that their inner world must be hidden, and that their body, voice, or truth is a liability. This is how the role begins, not with a title, but with a fracture. A fracture between who the child is and who they must pretend to be in order to survive. And here's the part most people miss. Humiliation is a form of binding. Not just emotionally, spiritually. In many occult systems, rituals of humiliation are tied to thresholds. For example, a child may be mocked during a birthday, insulted during a holiday, or shamed during a family gathering. These aren't just poor timing. They are intentional breaches, used to embed spiritual contracts during moments of passage. If a child is humiliated during their first period, their first speech, or their first romantic relationship, that humiliation imprints the moment. And that imprint becomes a curse. It loops, repeats, follows them into adulthood. Many survivors report that just as they're about to rise, they hear the old voices. You sound stupid. No one wants to hear you. You're embarrassing. Those aren't thoughts, they're echoes, installed during the earliest initiations into silence. This is how ritual families operate, by planting internal saboteurs in the child's psyche, using repeated acts of mocking, exposure, and shame. Even spiritual gifts are targeted. A child with intuitive ability may be labeled dramatic. A child with healing instincts may be accused of overreacting. A child with visionary dreams may be laughed at, or worse, punished. This isn't just about invalidation. It's about cutting the child off from their divine memory. By making the sacred feel shameful, the family ensures that the child stops trusting their own power. And once that trust is broken, the system can step in and offer roles instead. Be the good girl. Be the smart one. Be the peacemaker. Roles are installed where spirit has been shamed. Let's talk about the specific tactics used. 1. Mocking disguised as bonding. In many ritual families, jokes are weaponized. A child might be called silly nicknames, imitated, or constantly teased about sensitive subjects. If the child protests, they're told, "It's just a joke," or "Don't be so sensitive." This grooming tactic teaches the child that their pain is invalid, and that boundary violations are normal. Over time, the child learns to smile through mistreatment, to confuse abuse with attention, and that confusion lays the groundwork for later spiritual manipulation. 2. Group shame rituals. Group shame. Sometimes, multiple family members participate in mocking the child, creating a circle of witnesses. These moments may occur during meals, family events, or casual conversations. The child is made to feel exposed, foolish, or small in front of others. This generates not only internal shame, but external compliance. The message is clear. Everyone agrees with your unworthiness. This tactic is particularly damaging because it creates isolation. The child learns there is no ally, no safe space, only performance. 3. Public exposure of private information. Parents may share details about the child's body, mistakes, or thoughts with others, often with a smile. This isn't innocent, it's a power move. The child is taught that nothing is theirs. Even their privacy can be taken. This erodes the boundaries between the self and the system, preparing the child for deeper spiritual access later. If you've ever had a moment as a child where you felt your entire being collapse from a parent revealing something sacred in front of others, you've experienced ritual humiliation. 4. Forced apologies and reenactments. In some families, children are made to act out their perceived failures or apologize in humiliating ways. These reenactments are not about accountability, they are about degradation. In ritual systems, forced apologies create energy reversal, where the victim becomes the penitent and the abuser becomes the moral authority. This reversal is critical for installing shame-based contracts that keep the child bound to the system. 5. Spiritual mockery. Finally, and most destructively, many ritual families mock the spiritual instincts of the child. A child who sees angels is accused of lying. A child who feels energy is told they're crazy. A child who speaks truth is labeled disrespectful. These are initiations, designed to disconnect the child from their own spiritual sight, because a child who trusts their vision is a threat to any system based on illusion. So what is the result of all this? By the time the child reaches adolescence, they may be successful, talented, or even praised. But internally, they are carrying dozens of micro-shames. Internalized echoes of the mocking, the exposure, the small humiliations that trained them to distrust themselves. They've learned to play roles, edit their expression, and question their memory. And that state of internal submission is exactly what the family wants, because it is easier to control someone who believes they deserve it. What's more, these humiliations create energetic openings for entity interference. Each time a child feels exposed, shamed, or mocked in ritual context, the soul contracts. That contraction creates a tear in the energy field. And through those tears, entities, thought forms, or spiritual attachments can enter. This is not superstition. It is spiritual physics. Where there is shame, there is access. So what can be done? The healing begins when you name it. When you stop calling it just how my family was and begin to see the pattern for what it is. A structured, intentional breaking of your spirit through humiliation rituals designed to bind you to roles and sever you from your gifts. Reversing that pattern requires re-seeing those moments, not as evidence of your failure, but as proof of your power. They shamed what they feared. They mocked what they saw in you. And what they saw was your potential. To unwind the programming, revisit the moments of early shame. Reclaim them. Where you were mocked for being too sensitive, affirm your spiritual empathy. Where you were shamed for speaking truth, affirm your voice as divine. Where you were teased for how you looked, affirm your body as sovereign. Every reversal you make rewrites the contract. You may also need to clear the energetic hooks from these moments, especially if they occurred during thresholds like birthdays, holidays, first periods, first sexual experiences, or first public performances. These moments carry energetic charge, and that charge can be cleared through rituals of your own, sacred reversal ceremonies, reclamation journaling, or somatic healing work where you physically restore safety in the places where shame was installed. Let's summarize what we've uncovered. Ritual families use humiliation as an initiation tool to fracture spirit, instill submission, and prepare children for roles. Humiliation is delivered through mocking, exposure, forced apologies, and spiritual invalidation. These acts are often timed with thresholds to embed contracts at critical life moments. The child learns to dissociate from their power, question their gifts, and accept performance as survival. These early tests are observed, recorded, and used to assign later ritual roles. Healing requires reversing the shame spell by naming the humiliation, reclaiming the moment, and restoring sacred identity. What was mocked in you is what must be resurrected. Your sensitivity, your sight, your truth. If you were mocked for something you now treasure, your voice, your softness, your fire, that's not a coincidence. It was a warning shot from a system that knew what you'd become if left intact. But here you are, intact enough to remember. And remembering is how the spell breaks. Hi, I'm Adeline Atlas, 11 times published author, and what you just watched is part of my signature program, the Chosen One series inside School of Soul. This series is not just a course, it's a blueprint for those who know they were different from the start. The black sheep, the scapegoat, the truth teller, the cycle breaker. Inside, you'll discover the family roles playbook, the golden child, the scapegoat, the enabler, the lost child. and how to finally step out of the part you were cast in without consent. How the black sheep becomes the goat, turning rejection into radical transformation in leadership. How to break generational curses and rewrite ancestral contracts so the pain stops with you. And how to recognize and escape modern forms of spiritual and technological targeting, from gang stalking to synthetic synchronicity. This isn't just about survival. It's about awakening, about reclaiming your voice, your lineage, and your destiny as one of the chosen ones. Click the link below to access the full series now, because the role ends the moment you decide it does, and the real script begins with you.